going to call the meeting to order, our February 25th school district board meeting. Mike, can you call roll?
Mr. Benford.
Here.
Ms. Crooked.
Here.
Ms. Hogue.
Here.
Ms. Hogerl.
Here.
Ms. Kudner.
Here.
Ms. Paoli.
Here.
Mr. Vecchio. Vice President Seidel.
Here.
President Sangelo.
Here. Could you mark Mr. Vecchio as unexcused absence? Apparently, Owen Vecchio is 8 today, one of our second graders, and happy birthday, Owen. But Tom decided to spend the evening with his birthday boy, so we'll let that. Let's rise for the pledge.
It's not like you get the cake.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mike, can you read us the statement concerning open public meetings?
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the Superintendent of Schools in the following manner. On January 15th, 2021, notice of this meeting was posted on the interior of the school administration offices on Lincoln Ave, Haddonfield. Written notice was submitted and filed with the Haddonfield Borough Clerk, and notices were faxed to the Courier Post and mailed to the Retrospect newspaper.
Thanks, Mike. Mrs. McHale, I believe you are with us today to give us some student commendations. We've got some National Merit Scholarship Program finalists.
Hi, Adam. Dan Licata here. I'm actually going to pitch it for Ms. McHale this evening and recognize our wonderful students.
Good to see you. Thank you for being here, Dan.
Certainly. Good evening, all the members of the Haddonfield Board of Education, Mr. Klaus, Dr. Priolo, other members of the admin team. We're really excited to honor some of our students this evening, so thank you for giving us the opportunity to do so. First, we'd like to recognize some students who entered an essay poetry writing contest with the Haddonfield Human Relations Commission, chaired by Ms. Ellen Stone. Students in grades 6 through 12 were offered the opportunity to participate, and the prompt this year was overcoming injustice in society is always difficult. It usually requires great sacrifice, many times on an individual level. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave us a wonderful model for leading change. What are the lessons we should learn from his sacrifice, and what will young people today, who will be the leaders of tomorrow, need to do to lead that change and continue his legacy? We had 4 students who were recognized, 3 of which were honorable mentions. That's Sierra Smith from grade 10, Christopher Carr, grade 10. Christopher is with us this evening, as is Olivia Mae Smith Thatcher, also a 10th grader. All honorable mentions. Great job, guys. We're really proud of you. And also, we should also recognize our first place winner, Audrey.
Mr. McCall, why don't we have the kids say something so their face pops up?
Oh, yes, certainly. Go ahead.
Say something, say hello. That way you get the feature on the screen.
Dan, you call them out by name, then they'll say hello. This way they know when to go.
Sure thing. Let's start with Olivia Mae Smith Thatcher.
Hi.
Hey, Olivia.
Hey, Olivia. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we have Christopher Carr.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. Congratulations.
I don't see Sierra Smith on the call, but maybe a quick round of applause for Sierra. And the first place winner in the contest was Audrey D. Cristofaro. And Audrey, if you would say hello, that'd be great.
Hello.
So congratulations to our Haddonfield Human Relations Commission essay and poetry writing prompt winners. Awesome job, guys. Ms. Matozo, do you need to jump in there, or I can continue on to PSAT, NMS, QT? Okay. So also this evening, we're fortunate enough to recognize 2 students who have been named finalists for the National Merit Scholarship. And out of the 1.5 million students who take the PSAT, NMS, QT qualifying exam, we have 2 students, about 15,000 students are recognized at this point. So out of the 1.5 million, we're down to 15,000, so we're in the top 1%. And we're really excited and so proud of the accomplishments of these students as well. And tonight we have both of those finalists here. We have Chloe Santana.
Hi.
And we also have Alexander Roseman.
Hello.
Such a wonderful accomplishment for you both, and we look forward to seeing all the great things that you do as you graduate this June and head off to your next step in the journey. So congratulations to you both.
Mr. Tozo, are you, you're up next?
I'm all set, Mr. Sangillo. So thank you to Mr. Licata for giving a very comprehensive overview of the same contest that the middle schoolers had the opportunity to share their essays as well. We shared our event with students in social studies class and also in our Google Classroom so that our virtual learners had the opportunity to submit as well. We are excited to highlight the achievements of 3 of our middle school students. We have 2 first place winners, Penelope or Pip Inkalingo, Marlena Kadar. I'm not sure that they are on the call with us tonight, but what we will do the next time the girls are in school, we will call them to the office. We'll have an opportunity to give them their certificates and we'll take a picture and share that out. An honorable mention was for Clara Duffy. And we had the opportunity for Clara to read her essay that we shared with our community on our MLK Day of Service. So we had the opportunity to also highlight her achievement within the community itself. So we're proud of our middle schoolers. We look forward to sending them off to Mr. Licata in the high school and to follow in the footsteps of the individuals who are with us this evening on the screen. And we appreciate you giving us the opportunity to share their accomplishments as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Now, I got to ask, did Mrs. Klein have something? Did you raise your hand on purpose or was that an accident?
I'm sorry. It was not on purpose. I'm sitting in the dark.
Okay, I just didn't want to leave you out. I saw your virtual.
My apologies.
Right.
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. Got the presentation, Dr.
Do
Murray.
we have a student representative then?
Oh, that's right. We have a student rep report. Oh.
He's got some.
Cyrus Marwah, I think you're on. You're going to give us a student report. This is your first.
Yes.
Welcome to us. Let's hear what's going on in school.
All right. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be a student representative, and I'm ready to bridge the gap between the students and the board. So my first update for you is, as you guys probably know, we will be moving to phase 2 of learning in mid-March. And the main takeaway I'm getting from the students is that they are extremely excited just to get back to their routines and just a sense of normalcy that we haven't had in the past. In the near future, Ms. McHale and the student representatives will be working on a survey that we'll be sending out to the students just to get more of their perspectives on this. The next thing I have is on Monday and Tuesday of this week in homeroom, we had a SEL or a social and emotional learning session in which student peer leaders gave a presentation on ways to handle stresses and just different the emotions and different stresses of life that might be exacerbated by the time during this pandemic. And I thought it was a great way just to learn to stay in touch with your emotions and different ways to handle conflict during this time. The last thing I have is regarding the school dances. The school dances are a fan favorite, student favorite, and during this time it is definitely important to have that social event. So the administration is working on different ways to get those dances done in a safe way. Ms. McHale and the student representatives were talking, And the plan is to have all 4 dances in some way, but right now it is unclear and undecided how they will look. So more updates for that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Cyrus. Excellent. Excellent report. Thank you. Okay, now we'll be moving on. And Cyrus, of course, you don't have to stay for the whole meeting. We let you guys go to do your work and enjoy your evening, but you're welcome to. You want to hear about project-based learning initiatives it's going to be introduced by Dr. Berry today, and our preliminary budget presentation and Chuck Klaus's State of the District. You're welcome to, Cyrus, so no pressure. Just kidding. Okay, sorry, Dr. Berry.
My apologies. I thought that was the presentation.
I thought you were going to give it. That's okay.
No.
You're going to fall into the category with Gino. So what did we do? What did we do this week? Because Gino just sits around and I'm just kidding. Thank you. Yeah, before we had a public session with Dr. Murray and Chris Anderson from Rutgers, and we talked about project-based learning. So that's been covered. Mike, we have our preliminary budget presentation that we've gone over in committee. We're here to present it to the board and the public. Give us your best shot.
Yeah. Will do. All right. Presentation. All right. So tonight is our preliminary budget presentation. It's also the same night the board will vote to approve the tentative budget for the fiscal year 2021, 2022. And we're going to get right into it. This is what we're going to go over tonight. Something I did adjust slightly from last year. I decided to, at the beginning, basically explain where we've been with the budget this year and then where we still have to go after tonight until adoption in April this year. Okay, and this is that timeline. Basically from October through now, we are working with our administrators, also with the finance committee on compilation of the budget, deciding ways, what we've budgeted before in the past, what's new that we may need, and also where we can find savings in the budget. Then we have our budget freeze of the current year budget. What that is, we do this every year. That's put in place in order to, with the mindset that everything that needed to be ordered or service to be contracted for has been done so already. It also gives us a better way of projecting where we're going to be, our financial position at the end of the fiscal year. Preliminary budget presentation, that's what we're doing right now. Where we go from here, we'll have another, let me back up a step. So by March 22nd, it's my job. I have to file this tentative budget, very technical, all the various required documentation for it. I have to do that by March 22nd. Then on March 25th, I'll be back here at a board meeting presenting much more in-depth presentation. I'll talk about more state aid, tax levy, and getting some specifics of revenues and appropriations. After that, the county superintendent statutorily has to have our budget, our tentative budget approved by April 20th. And then we plan to have our public hearing and budget adoption on April 29th. And these last three, just so you can see the window we have to work with here with the county superintendent required to approve it by a certain date. And then when we have to have the budget adopted by May 14th. And then, July 1st, new budget year. So you can see the budget takes over a half a year. So just to get that picture in everyone's head, how much time and effort goes into making the budget. And it's not just the business administrator. This is, the administrators, and then the administrators working with their teams with their departments or schools to make up the budget. Here's some key points. So one I did want to point out, maybe a theme in this presentation. COVID-19 affected us in a lot of ways, right? Of course, fiscally, it affects us, and I'll elaborate on other slides how it did affect us. You'll also see, we will see an increase in state aid this year. Okay. So just to highlight a few things that will be new that we're budgeting for, the first three are all personnel additions, followed by we will be budgeting for a new 7th grade ELA unit. Going back to what I said about COVID, COVID brought a lot of things. We also learned some of the things that we can use that will be still beneficial in the future. So we're budgeting for those things now. And then also we have a few athletic items we're going to budget for also. Okay. This slide is mainly anything that we're continuing or expanding upon from previous years. Continuing our one-to-one initiative. Again, COVID, this probably fast-tracked us maybe a year closer to what our original one-to-one initiative goal was. And I put there specifically that next year we will cover grades 3 through 12 with our one-to-one initiative. With Chromebooks, correct. And then all of these other various aspects of the budget. Again, just we're continuing, we're expanding. Okay. Fun stuff, the numbers. So out of all of our governmental funds, that's funds 10, 20, and 40, that total budget is $47.3 million. Okay, our operating budget, that is our day-to-day, all of our operating expenses. The budget that is funded by tax levy, state aid, that's Fund 10 operating budget. So broken down between our current expenses and capital outlay, we're budgeting to pull $800,000 from capital reserve for budgeted projects next year. Fund 20, special revenue. These are mostly federally funded grants. These are specifically allocated funds we receive from the federal government for, you can see IDEA, that's special education, ESSA grants, Title 1, 2, and 4. New this year, let me explain this a little bit. So let me put my accounting hat on. There's something new called GASB 84. GASB is Government Accounting Standards Board. By law, we have to follow any accounting regulations they release. GASB 84 talks about fiduciary funds. We now have to account for our fiduciary funds in our government fund 20. Okay, so what that $650,000 is, that's your student activity accounts, including your athletic account. So what exactly is this? That is a budgeted activity that you'll see run through all of our student activity accounts: high school, middle school, elementary schools, and athletic account. So to give you an idea, your biggest heavy hitters are the high school field trip, senior trip. That's $250,000 right there. Followed by you have your yearbook, the athletic account, drama club, and the activity fees collected for high school and middle school. Right. So again, that's new this year. I wanted to explain that just a little more in detail so you didn't get confused why that's there this year versus not next year. Okay. And Fund 40 is our debt service, paying off our debt. This is paying off our $35 million bond referendum that we had a few years ago, also paying off the bond we just refunded a couple months ago.
Refunded.
Yeah, refinance, refunded.
Refunded something?
So, yeah. So, and so that's what Fund 40 is. Okay. little visual for our operating budget, just Fund 10. As you can see, wanted to paint the picture here that over 75%, is personnel between salaries and benefits. And that last quarter, this is in sequential order of, highest expense versus least. So your salaries, benefits followed by, in order, buildings and grounds, professional services, so on and so forth. Okay. This, I call this the obvious slide. These are the hurdles we faced, right? The first one, that visual in the previous slide, I mean, that's what that is, showing that personnel is our biggest expense. 2% cap levy, this will be here every year. We have things that increase, there's certain things increase more than 2% every year. However, statutorily, we are stuck with only being allowed to increase our tax levy by 2% at most. There are things that we are allowed to use to go over 2% without going to voters, but we are not eligible for any of those items this year. So 2% of, now notice that's 2% of our tax levy, not of our total operating budget. You can't account for what you receive in state aid, what we budget for other revenues, that is 2% of your tax levy. All right, told you my continuous theme, new expenses, reduction of certain revenues. So our tuition the past couple of years has been down a little bit, so we decided to adjust that again this year due to lower numbers.
Approximately how much has it dropped?
Pre-K has dropped a lot. In this current budget year, it dropped about $100,000.
Hey, Mike.
That's it.
The last slide, I'm sorry.
Sure.
So increase in payroll and benefits is 5%?
Combined, you have to understand that payroll may have increased a little more or a little less, but payroll is by far the bigger number. I mean, we're talking over $22 million in payroll, while benefits is $6 million. That actually increased more, but when you combine them all together, it's 5%.
So payroll includes new hires, which you named were at least, we had three new hires, and then increase in pay, and then what else makes up?
Is this because of what we had to pick up for benefits, that we're now paying that much more in benefits because of, okay.
Sure. I mean, that's one of my examples. Things increasing higher than 2% that come in higher.
As well as making up the difference on the EA negotiated rate to the $12 an hour rate. That's also part of that number.
Is that included in here?
Will this be put on the website after the night?
It'll be on the website tomorrow.
Perfect. Which school needs the first grade teacher? And I'm assuming it's because our kindergarten numbers are coming up higher?
Central School needs it. They are already at 77, I think, and you still have till April 1st. So all those 77 students met the deadline not to be asked to attend another school.
And they have enough rooms to.
They're going to have to make that work. There's some things to work around now. Now, if we have a possibility where a third or fourth grade drops, we free a teacher there, that would ease that burden, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen right now. Right now, we're projecting that we're going to need that teacher.
And one other question, the in-house piece, can you go back to that slide? I just wanted to see the new personnel that we're adding. The behaviorist, the first grade teacher, the nurse at Central Middle, and 7th grade ELA unit. Okay, and the rest are more one-time.
Or stipend.
They're not people.
Yeah,
Tell me real quick, and forgive me, but like a behaviorist, I know what a behaviorist is, and in the district, I'm just familiar with counselors. So maybe we have a new position called behaviorist, or is it
You
essentially?
you probably
counseling?
speak to that more.
I can talk. So currently, all of the behaviorist positions within the district are contracted through an outside vendor. What this position will do is create an in-house position, and the primary responsibility of the in-house behaviorist will be to directly supervise behavioral specialists, which essentially are one-on-ones that work with some of our most needy students that have behavioral challenges. They oversee their data collection for their behavior plan and write their behavior plans. A certified behavior analyst, DCBA, is required to write those plans and collect and analyze the data that goes along with that. So what we are projecting is that the costs associated with this position will be offset in a reduction of contracted services. So we don't anticipate a overall budget hit on this. We anticipate this will be a cost neutral expenditure.
But that was being done out of house previously.
Currently, that's how it's being
Managerial
done,
work.
yes, through contracted agencies. And we currently work with 3 of them. And we also believe that what this position will do is help to standardize and set the level of expectation that's set by the child study team rather than an outside vendor. Did I answer all your questions?
You did. I was a little bit, hopeful. I know there had been some discussion, and I know we added a child study team member last year. I just didn't know if that was going to offset any, workload there. But I'm good. You can move on.
I'm not sorry.
To answer your question, David, the increase in minimum wage, which affected so there's a couple things going on. Our EAs were paid regionally very low, and it's created a problem with stability in the position, which is a problem for our students. If what happened was, so we had a settlement that we agreed on to as a part of that settlement, we agreed that the EA's increase to that current minimum wage amount would be on top of the stated increase that we agreed upon. So the board absorbed that portion of increase outside of what our agreed upon rate is. The minimum wage is going to continue to move higher, and we're back in negotiations. So, we're just starting them. That's going to be a topic of negotiations, because it's going to cost a significant amount of money to get them up. And the question is, do we want to get them up to minimum wage, or do we want to pay them competitive rates so we can get good EAs to support our students? So it's going to be a topic that we discuss. Obviously, we're not really there yet. We haven't even exchanged proposals. So I didn't need to.
No, I just meant budgetarily, that's outside of, not necessarily payroll, but that's outside of salary and benefits, and that's actually extra, that's different money the way you put it up there. That's why I asked.
I don't think so.
Is it, or is it not the same?
No,
Not different.
It's just a different year.
I think one of the big.
it's part of the pay, it's part of the 5% increase though, is what really I was getting at.
Part of that big number, Mike, is that the chapter 44 is not saving us money, but costing us
Oh, yeah,
significantly.
Well,
That's
yeah.
a big, that's probably the biggest chunk of that
What's
piece.
the
right?
chapter 44?
Mike,
So, chapter 44 is the law that New Jersey put into place to offer chapter 78 relief plan for New Jersey education. So, we had a special open enrollment period this fall for our employees to go into something that's called the Educator's Health Plan. It is a law-driven, designed healthcare plan, health and prescription benefits. If you were hired after July 1st, you must go on the plan. If you were hired before July 1st, you had the option to go on the plan. We had about 100 benefit eligible people, benefit eligible members participate in the plan effective January 1st. the law was built to save employees money on Chapter 78, but it's also built, it's the intention of the law was also to help save district. However, we didn't experience that. In a survey that New Jersey ASBO took of districts in New Jersey, I think it was 84% of districts are experiencing an unfavorable cost effect from Chapter 40.
Yeah, I thought the whole idea was it was to
It's
save
supposed,
us.
it's supposed to benefit both the taxpayers
And,
and,
yeah,
and the employees, and it's not working out that way for us, and it's a pretty big number, I think, if I don't know.
Yeah, it's a six-figure number.
well, are they talking about doing something to remedy that, or? I mean, it just seems odd that you would make a miscalculation like that, because I know the whole point, not you, I
yeah.
And 84% of the school districts reporting the same thing.
Right,
It
that's
seems like
what
someone didn't see this.
that's what it just seems, it was sold as in that taxpayers and
The optimist is saying, I would hope legislation was talking about this.
We were hoping to see cost savings on it too.
right, that's what I thought the point was.
Most of the districts that are seeing savings, they are in the state health benefits plan. We are private. Most districts that are in private plans did not see that.
How do they anticipate savings? I mean, if employees are paying less and the district pays less, what does that mean that insurers are getting less money?
Well, because if I'm understanding this correctly, the employees of the teachers are considered then state employees and get that group rate that you get when there's a lot of members, whereas before they were never considered that. So it's almost like a bulk, like you get a cheaper rate when you have more people. From what I understand, that was the intention of it.
Well, sort of. I understand that before this, these state rates were awful. That's why they're seeing the savings, because they're so high. Ours were pretty good.
Oh,
Which is why
okay.
we're saving.
Okay.
I'm sorry, which is why we're not saving.
So it wasn't in your budget highlights, but what does the budget look like in terms of maintenance budget for equipment? You hear stories now that they say, oh, I'm saving money on gas, but you're taking 2 showers a day and you're running your heat 24 hours a day and you're running your dishwasher 5 more times a week than you used to for your home. Same thing with the district. We've been running this air system nonstop since September 10th or whatever. They were built to have a lifespan based off a calculation of shutting it down at 11 o'clock at night, starting up at 6. So are we budgeting more money to inspect and maintain equipment that is now going to have a shorter shelf life because it's being used more than we thought?
I wish somewhere in that green piece of the pizza right there.
But is it an intentional decision to put more money aside for that?
Absolutely, absolutely. That is definitely something when talking about facilities, grounds department, we definitely talk.
And we're using the school news software too, so we know that the C-wing, all the C-wing units here need to be replaced within the next X number of years, so we're looking at those long-term pieces too. That was about $1.2 million, I think, Mike, along those lines to do that. We also know that I think Lizzie has a few, so all those things are coming in.
Okay.
And the money put aside for the capital, the roof above the auditorium needs to be fixed and the cupola, because it is still raining into the auditorium, right? So that's part of that. And we're also putting money aside because when we get the Hopkins parcel, we're going to have to be prepared to do work on some of those buildings, and we have to make sure we have that money aside. And
Just to make
if I'm getting ahead of this, Mike, from what Mike tells me, you have to identify capital reserve and take it out of there, and that's done one time a year. So that's why we're taking $800,000 out. For that way, we can get that roof fixed and done, and we have money for the bankrupt. If we don't use it, we can drop it right back in the capital reserve. But if we wait on that, then we can get caught.
You answered my second half of the question, which is how much are we dipping into reserve for bankrupt?
About $500,000.
About $500,000.
Yeah.
And that's just to stabilize the greenhouse and the carriage house.
Yeah. I mean,
And fence the
please
property,
understand-
probably,
Fence
right?
the property and whatever else we have to do there.
Yes.
Sure.
Protect Cooley from being a hazard, which it is not, it's literally, I mean, we went to look through it, people had gotten in.
Honestly, those are the three things that I have written down here, because $800,000, knowing that we got a lot of maintenance, knowing that we have that, we have to do something at some point with that land, and then overall, capital improvement projects, are we budgeting enough for what we need to do?
And to piggyback on that, I would like to see in a future meeting an outline of kind of what is in the plans for this upcoming year and what is not in the plans, because in prior years, when we ended up doing the referendum, is because of budget constraints, things kept getting pushed into future years, and you have to be very cognizant of what is getting pushed. And I know Susan's doing a long-range plan, but I'm really interested in seeing a short to mid-range, next 3 years.
And this is part of the rookie superintendent mistake, I'll say, or experience. So one of the projects we need to hit is this elevator out here, right? That has to be a summer project. It cannot be done during the school year because you need access to it. That we need to do that. We need to start planning for that in October, right? And so now that we're planning, we missed that window. So that's going to happen. So we have some things we know we're looking at in the future. We can certainly present, here's what we have upcoming over the next several years in terms of our facility goals.
We looked at that in committee, it exists, yeah.
No, I figured it did. I just
Yeah.
want to have the rest of
No,
the.
but you're absolutely right. We're saying you're right. We should be looking at it. We talked about that. And Chuck and Mike pointed out the time, making sure that we get real tight on that, especially with public deals of that.
And there's-
$35 million bond referendum. We want to get real good at that. So I think you're right on with that.
Additionally, we should do we should do a capital project presentation, and then we should do a maintenance presentation as well, because that's something that we had talked about after to get the bond referendum to go through. We told people we would show them how we were going to plan to maintain our buildings, and we have. And right now we're saying, take our word for it. We bought the right software. We have the right people. We're doing the work, but we really have to show that.
And several years ago, I saw a spreadsheet that outlined how much was spent on light bulb replacement every year. And I don't remember the number, but I will tell you, it surprised me. If nobody's seen that from the public or from the board, it's amazing how all that money is accounted for, but you don't have any concept of how expensive it is if somebody doesn't show it to you.
It's great, yeah.
Other facilities challenges are the main office in the high school needs to be redone, right? But so does the entire A building. So and Susan would jump in. Just doing the office in isolation is not the best way to do it, right? That's now you're throwing money to fix a problem. There should be part of it.
Correct.
Right. So some of these projects we're looking at, we're saying this is part of a bigger issue. We can hold off a couple of years to get that, but we want to make sure we do it right and hit it all at the same time. So that's some of the challenges we're looking at.
So it's conscious deferment
Correct.
to get value out of large project work that's coordinated.
But it's just making sure, as we
Yeah.
all agreed to, things aren't falling through the cracks. Like, for instance, when we did the stadium repair, weatherproofing and waterproofing, the stone stair risers there had not been done years ago. And because of that, it started cracking and ended up being more costly. So it's easy to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Heather, that's exactly why I'm asking it, because there are little things that I know are very expensive. And I question whether that little bit of green that's there is going to cover the things that we need so that we don't start slipping backwards. So
How much is that?
You know what, actually understand that the buildings and grounds board, that does not include the capital reserve money I just told you.
Right, no, I know
So
they're two different ones.
That's only Fund 10, not
Yeah.
Fund 12, which is capital.
Right, but honestly, I am looking at that little green
Yeah.
piece of pie and $800,000, and then thinking about all of the things between maintenance, capital improvements, and what we're gonna do with Cooley that is dangerous. It just doesn't seem like there's enough budgeted for that.
Is that something we can revisit, Mike?
Any other questions?
We're an unintended victim of the delay of Bancroft. Because part of the demolition for construction on that side is the offer to raise Cooley on our side at that expense. So it's not a school expense, but that doesn't happen until that happens. So until then, right, we're responsible for the boarding once we get it. And that's a different topic for probably future items for board consideration.
I just want to make sure that we have what we need in the budget.
All right, great.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh, boy. Now, we did our board committee reports. No one met this week, correct? So we're
I mean,
Justin,
just
we-
the finance and facilities committee, I mean, we met on.
we did meet, yeah, that was this week, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we met on Tuesday, I mean, Mike gave a presentation, so that was a lot of what we spoke about. There were, some materials that Mike had shared with us in advance of the meeting. One of them included this letter from Land Associates back from December. And so some of the projects that, Chuck and others, were just referencing, like the elevator project, were included in this letter. And so this letter doesn't even include all the facilities related, projects that, we'd like to tackle, but these alone, came to about $15 million. And so that's not even all the facilities, projects that we want to tackle. That's in addition to all the other district priorities that we want to fund, whether it's security, technology, or what have you. So in terms of prioritizing, right, I mean, we certainly talked about, things like the A-wing auditorium roof, because obviously that lease is not good, and we talked about that exactly when we said about, something's going to cost us, I don't know, say $1,000 now, but if we let it sit for 3 years, it's going to cost you $50,000. That's the kind of thing that you want to tackle. Like any household, we have a limited budget, so we need to prioritize, and we need to build out what those costs are going to look like, over, like you said, the next 3, 5 years. So we got to look at that. Aside from that, we quickly touched on, at the end, everybody knows we started to charge some facility use of fees. So we quickly, based on the comments I heard, talked about whether we were charging those fees currently and how it was going through the scheduling and access. I didn't have that much time to dig deep about that, given the focus on the budget. That was really it.
So what was that amount you said in the beginning? I couldn't hear through the mask. Did you say 15?
The amount of the total cost associated with the 15 or so projects that were included in that letter from Land Associates was about $15 million. But that doesn't include all of the projects with respect to our facilities, and it doesn't include any other district priorities like technology, security, et cetera.
All right. Well, we'll move on to Assistant Superintendent's report. Do you have anything for us, Gino?
My report's rolled into Mr. Klaus's.
Yeah. So before, Mr. Klaus will cue up his screen, all my teasing Gino, but so the board knows. They were, these reports are getting notoriety in the area. I don't know if you've heard. People are looking to Chuck's reports because of how clear and thorough they are and explaining how we're moving forward. And people have reached out to Chuck Chuck will tell you, although I'll tell you because I always tease Gino, that it is a collaborative effort. These are massive undertakings, and between the two of them, they're working very hard to put these together and make this happen quickly. So thank you, Gino, and thank you, Chuck, for presenting.
I would certainly say they're not Chuck's reports, they're the leadership team's reports. And there's a lot of hands that go into these, the heavy lifts. A really good example of some of the things you see people do are last week, we had a meeting. It was last week, I think, right? We had a meeting. And some of the questions about, the exact number of kids. How do I decide the exact number of kids? The next morning, Gina and I were talking about it. Bob goes, let's set classrooms up. Let's set up classrooms, get pictures, get them out, and called Tim and his team and the custodians, and within 24 hours, all the kindergarten, first and second grade classrooms were set in place, pictures taken, and they were sent out. And I think if you got those and you saw those pictures come out, they would help you understand what we're talking about, the distance. I mean, that was, and by the way, if you remember, Tim and his team at the same time had an ice and snowstorm they were dealing with as well. So they weren't just sitting around waiting for something to do. They got the grounds cleared and did that. And then put that at that communication. And we have shared this, our work with a couple of school districts who asked us, but we shared it with the county superintendent today, who's going to share out all of our documentation with schools in the county, as other schools are also looking to increase in-person instruction time. So a couple of quick things first, the senior date. So one of the challenges we're having at the high school right now is the NJSIA has pushed everything back because of the pandemic, and things we've had in place and have been trying to jostle around. Those dates are being eaten up by playoffs and state championship dates, which is a really difficult pill to swallow if you're a 4-year on the baseball team. This might be your one time to get to a state championship game. You have to decide between going to your prom and your baseball game, or a track meet, or whatever it is. So Tammy and her group have been working really hard trying to find alternate dates. And ultimately, I think Tammy says it's going to be the Footloose prom because you're technically not allowed to dance. I think at proms this year indoor, right? And that is Tammy's joke, not Chuck's, the Footloose joke. So they're looking around for dates, and couldn't move them. They're having trouble moving back. We looked at different dates, and then we thought we found a date. No, there's AP testing that next day. So there's a lot of really difficult moving parts, but they think they found a date for the senior prom. They're going to have to, it'll be a Thursday. Right now, it might be the Thursday before Memorial Day. They're looking at that date. They're looking at June 10th is another date, I think. But on the Friday before Memorial Day, there are sports competitions. You'll have to waive the attendance rule, because if you're at the prom until midnight, you have to sleep until 11 or 12. So we're looking at waiving attendance in school for those days. So we're looking at a lot of those things to try to help the kids out with that. In addition, a late piece on your agenda was approval for a potential ski trip in a couple of weeks. Because the senior trip was canceled, they were trying to find a couple of day trips for the seniors to take. And the idea came up, someone brought it up, I think, Wednesday. What if we try to do a ski trip for kids? And so that was thrown on there at the last minute. It's not something we want to do, but I think given those circumstances, other than that, I think they were looking at other day trips for all kind of the same day trip 3 times in a row, like tubing on the Delaware River. They're all very similar. So they thought this would be a nice way to change it up. So that's on your agenda. That's one of those things. So there's a lot of juggling going on, and I know Tammy and her team are working with a lot of different calendars to try to give those kids a positive experience. COVID numbers, here's our dashboard. These are all the current active cases in the district. Three of the 4 staff are outside contractors, right, Gina?
That's correct.
Yeah, so they're not our employees, they're outside contractors, but they're in the building, so we have them in our report. Here we are for you can see the students and the teachers, and we're still on that low. We currently have those lower numbers. And this is by grade level. And, you can see the high school's free this time. This week's county numbers have not been released yet. They have not come out. So they're usually come out on Thursdays. They're not out. So I don't have an update, but I can tell you that in Camden County, the percent positivity is 5.5%, which is pretty low. And the transmission rate is 0.88. So these are, below 1 is your big deal. Below 0.9 is a bigger deal. So they're still trending this way. And, I go on every day and I look at the 4 counties in our region, and Salem is doing very, very well. And Gloucester now is doing better. Burlington's still a little higher than us, but all of our counties tend to be trending that same way. So that's a good thing. One of the things that I get a lot of emails about is that there's a website. It's a very good website. I know that. I'm hoping it's good, because I go on all the time, called COVID Act Now, that updates daily. Their numbers we use Department of Health numbers, right? So the COVID Act Now numbers are a little higher than ours. But we go straight off what Dr. Dwacko gives us in our meetings and from his information. So the numbers we're using are the Cali's and the Department of Health numbers. Phase two, we're ready to go. We're moving. It's happening. I think I'm excited about it. I think the kids are excited about it. I think you heard Cyrus talk about that. I know teachers, as much as people would say they don't want this, teachers I know want to be in the classrooms with their kids. I think that that's a fallacy, that they don't want this. So I think this is exciting that we're moving forward. As you know, we're going to go with K-2 starting Monday, and then 3-12, 2 weeks after that. Here's the breakdown for K-2. 92% are, actually, is it 93 now, Gian?
It's up to 93.
Up to 93% are going to go in person, more than we have now. And I was talking, when we were talking to the county superintendents today about this, I was pointing that out, and that seems to be the theme. Everyone who's coming back, the more they're coming back, the more people are coming back with them. So it must be, I guess, his mentality is it's not worth just going 2 days a week. I need stability for whatever reason. I'll be able to do that. So we're up to 93% of our K-2 kids coming back. Here's a breakdown by schools. So you can see that, it's pretty consistent across there. Second grades are, grade 1 in Haddon is high, second grade at Central, and Tatum has the most full virtual still going on. They're about 90% there. District-wide, this is a really interesting chart. So the blue, the 91%, when we gave the preliminary survey, that's a number of parents in this grade level who said they would go full in person. In actuality, 93% came in once they saw. That's why that job by Gino and those guys getting those pictures out was such a good job. I think people probably felt a little more comfortable after seeing that. So we have more people actually coming in than said they would in the pre-piece. This is the pictures of the classroom sets we talked about earlier. You've all seen this and probably clicked on these things. By the 5th, we'll have these district-wide. The middle school is being worked on right now, so we'll have all these out district-wide. So families in grades 3 through 12 have the same ability to make that decision with as much information as they can.
No later than the 8th, John.
No later than the 8th.
We hope that
the 8th, right? Okay, yes.
We'll more than likely have them posted in real time. So within the next couple of days, parents should be able to go to that website and start to see additional classes, grades 3 through 5, and then 6 through 12 added. And we anticipate they will all be done by March 8th, if not sooner.
Can you remind me again, I see on that top picture that there are the plexiglass partitions.
Yes.
What grades get the plexiglass partitions?
Pre-K through 5 in every classroom, in grades 6 through 8 and 9 through 12, currently in selected rooms that are not as spaced out as some others. For example, science labs. They tend to be smaller rooms, configuration is a little more difficult to spread out. But we're also open to looking at, we might expand the desk shields in more classes. It's not a plexiglass shield, it's a hard plastic shield with a clear plastic opening.
So the lower pictures that don't have it, they just haven't been set up yet.
That's correct. And that's important to point out that in the photos, you may, particularly at the elementary level, you may not see desk shields set up in every classroom. They all have them. It's just for the sake of the photos, we're moving at a pretty quick clip. And I'll also add, when we have the discussion about the possibility of adding those shields more comprehensively above grade 5, research just came out this week that talked about the extremely low rate of transmission of COVID through surfaces, which updated some of the earlier studies that were done that misrepresented the likelihood of transmission on surfaces. Because that was a key point we've been deliberating about, of why we didn't put the shields in the first place at the middle school and the high school, because of all the students transitioning, and is there an increased need then for cleaning? So we're not at a point where we're saying, no, we wouldn't have to wipe them down in between every period, But we are trying to continually make adjustments as the science comes out.
Next steps, so we're communicating, there are other districts now also moving forward with different models than we are. So we're communicating with them to find out what they're doing and how they're taking on some of the challenges. Haddon Township has gone to full day cohort model, so they're working through lunches. So we're talking to them how their lunches are working. We're going to talk about how our spacing is working. Over Swarthmore, which is a K-8, and Westchester and Pennsylvania are coming back full by the end of March. There's some Brigantine, Margate, those schools are coming back too. So we're reaching out to those schools and we're sharing.
And they're K-5 districts, or
they're K-8s.
Oh, K-8.
Westchester's only K-12. But one of the things we talked about is we can learn from other K-8s and K-5s because we can do something different for our elementaries and we can in a high school, right? So any ideas we can share. We are reaching out to other districts to find out how they're handling those challenges. We're working with the teachers, the HEA, to rethink and revisit Wednesdays. With the numbers of virtual students as low as they are, we were expecting to be 80% to 60% full in person, depending on the level. We are going to give a really hard look at Wednesdays and what that's going to look like, knowing that there are some challenges that come along with this. And there's different ways of handling this. And so we're kicking around ideas. One would be just live stream all day for the virtual kids to watch. And then the answer is that what we want first graders to do? Watch a computer screen all day? There's got to be a better answer than that. So we're really problem solving through these things with the voice of the teachers in the classroom. Because Chuck would have the best idea in the world of how to solve that problem, having never taught a first grader ever, and certainly not virtually. Wouldn't be the right answer, right? But we have already started those conversations. We're brainstorming. We have 2 or 3 different options we're looking at that we think are going to be successful. And then we've already started talking to NutriServe about what lunches would look like. There's some advantages right now. Since every school-age child in America gets a free lunch, there's no cash exchange for lunch. You just go pick up a bag, you measure your lunch, you go. There you go. But spacing is really hard for us, right? We're an old district with small rooms. That's one of the things that's talking to Haddon Township about. They have more rooms. They have 5 elementary schools that are smaller schools than we are. So they have more space in some of their buildings, right?
Hey, Chuck, can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
You talked about, the lunches and full day we're having. I was talking to my 3rd grader the other day, and she was telling me about, how she has a snack. Right now, understanding, there's only half the kids there, but I'm assuming the snack's going to continue. So the mask is off to eat and drink for some period of time. I don't know how long it is, 5 minutes.
It's about 5 minutes, yeah.
5 minutes. So lunch is going to take longer.
Lunch would be 25 minutes, right? So there's more. There's snack. They go to their dots and there's spots, and then they sit and they eat. They put them back on. And they have a little recess break. The lunch will be more complicated because it will be longer, and if it's a rainy day, you can run people through your APR for your snack. Their lunch would be much more difficult.
You've already thought about even where I was going.
Yes.
Well, lunch also means the teachers don't necessarily need a snack, but they need a lunch.
They do need lunch. So also supervision is a challenge.
Sure, that's
Right.
a supervision.
So then
part,
you start rolling through ideas, right? So if we need supervision, because if kids eat in the classrooms, and we split classrooms, can we get parent volunteers in to supervise lunch? Maybe is that what it takes to get us open? And we haven't, these are all things we're kicking around and trying to come up with the best idea. One of the challenges with NutriServe, we have to give NutriServe a pretty good runway. They have laid everyone off. They don't have any staff, right? They have been shut down, in essence, for almost a year. And many of their workers have got other jobs, right? So they're gonna have to go out and hire and train and background check. And they can't do that until we know we're ready to go. So we're working with them on our timeline. We're gonna try to give them a date and say, here's some ideas we have, boom, come get them up and running by this day, at this time. So
What happens if we don't meet that date? Are we held to any kind of cost then?
I don't know, man.
If we were to give them a date, like let's just say we just pick the date right now, we're like, well, you know what, better have a date than not have a date, understanding that we might not make that date. So if we went past the date that we gave NutriServe, what happens? Are we on the hook for any cost, or?
They haven't given us any indication that would be.
So I'm like,
We'll have to talk to them about that. That'll be the question we bring up. And this is in red, note bene, NB. We're gonna make changes when we feel, I don't know if I can say this is draconian. We're gonna make changes we feel is right to make the change. We're not gonna wait till the next board meeting to announce a change. If we sit with the teachers and we come up with a really good idea for solving Wednesday on March 15th, whatever that Wednesday would be, the 17th, we're not gonna wait till the next board meeting. We're gonna move on these things as we open up ideas and we feel they're appropriate and responsible, and we're gonna move forward with them. And we're gonna pick some target dates for things. So Gino and I are sitting down, we're putting timelines and target dates down to really start pushing the brainstorming to planning, switching from one to the next step, right? So that's what we're looking at doing those things. So there's some of the challenges we have. One thing we met with, and we should talk about like I say now, we met with a company about testing students, pooling. So one of the things that's happening in Massachusetts they do pool testing for populations of students. So you'll get a classroom, one test tube, testing tube for a classroom. You'll do 30 swabs or 25 swabs in the same test file. You send it off. You randomly pick groups around the school, and then you're randomly checking a couple hundred kids a week. And what'll happen if that tube comes back as a positive, those 30 kids get tested individually. But this way, you're doing a random thing, making sure that the buildings are safe. So that's something they're doing in Massachusetts, and the company we're talking to. As a matter of fact, Massachusetts State paid for the first 6 weeks for every school in Massachusetts to do this. So, we're looking at ways to not just get the kids back, but add layers of safety that go beyond and make us more assured. We're still early in that, but it's really interesting the way they do it. And they gave us some examples of schools and how they're doing it. So that is something also, we're looking at doing that.
It's important to add that would be a opt-in.
That would be an opt-in. That would be not we would not mandate testing. That would be an opt-in piece. Yes, sorry. And I put this in here again. You saw them last week. You sent them out. We know we are increasing risk of exposure, risk of transmission, risk of close contacts. We understand that. We know that we're only 4 feet in this K2. But I don't feel that we're being irresponsible. I think we're doing it in a responsible way. And that's the same slide. We have, once again, 3 to 12, the next step. We're going to be asking them to make their choice no longer later than the 10th. We'll have those pictures out by the 8th. And on the 15th, we'll be rolling in the rest of the district. Any questions, Heather?
So I know you did for this, thinking about phase 2, a tremendous amount of work. You've been managing a ton of work. So I feel bad almost asking this because I can imagine all the time that's taken up, but has there been more thought to utilizing unutilized large spaces in the district, indoor or outdoor? And there might be valid reasons why you can't use them, but I'm wondering, if you're able to talk a little bit about that so that when we're asked about it, we're able to articulate, XYZ was contemplated and this is the challenge with it. And
we have thought about using larger spaces, yes, and we have used larger spaces. Our APRs have to be kept free for snack time. It's cold and rainy, so we can't really count on outdoor stuff. I mean, we have adjusted classrooms and moved certain classrooms to choir rooms that are larger. So anytime we have a larger space with good ventilation, we do try to use that whenever possible. One of the hopes for lunch is that it's going to be nicer in April than it is in February, right? And then we can start eating outside, and we would maybe put tents up, those sides, just tops up in case it rains. We have given thought to all of those things about having best use spaces.
I'll give you one more comment, just so you know. I got called from an acquaintance who lives in a neighboring district. She had found your board presentation from last week on our website, and she wanted to talk with me about it. And her and her parent friends in this neighboring town were just floored. They loved your presentation. They said, this is amazing. They said, our school district doesn't give us any data or science or definitive numbers. And I share that with you because I had always been impressed all along. But I think sometimes, people are in these times understandably upset that if they are concerned about COVID and they want more precautions, they can get emotional about it or passionate. People who want the schools opened up sooner can get passionate about it. And I just share all this because sometimes with all that passion, it's hard to recognize how wonderful you guys are doing as an administration, and that we should really be grateful and thankful as well to recognize how good we have it. So thank you for
That's
all
very
of it.
kind. Thank you for that. I appreciate that feedback. It's good to get positive feedback. I appreciate it.
So some people sometimes don't know what other districts are doing and just how hard you guys have worked to
Well, thank you very much.
make a well-informed decision.
Great. Any other? Okay, no report from me. We'll go to our public comments section of the meeting. John, can you do that there, or does Ryan do that? Ryan's doing it? Thank you to John, Ron, Charlotte, John Miller, the tech guys to make this all seamless and so pretty.
Adam, I'd just like to point out there's no writing public comments.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
What?
All right, so folks, what's gonna happen is, we're gonna ask you, if you do call in, the number's gonna be on the screen. If you could hit *6 to mute your phone. Also, it's very important that you turn your YouTube broadcast volume down and use your phone going forward, because there's a delay on the YouTube broadcast, so if you wait until you hear me on the YouTube, we're all sitting here waiting for you to hear it. So listen on your phone to make the comment, *6. When I tell you to unmute, I'm gonna say your phone number. And we ask that you just say your name and the street that you live on. And then we have a 3-minute comment limit so that we can get through all comments. And you're always welcome to re-queue once you've ended, you can stay on and we'll get back to you if you have something to add. But we will tell you at 3 minutes that your time is up. Again, that's just to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to make their comment. Is the slide,
No. It's been up.
Are you sure, John?
Yeah, it's not looking at it.
John,
Nice. I went over my mom's stove. We'll do another 30 seconds.
Feels like that Brady Bunch episode where they had to build the house of cards. And everyone's afraid to put the next card on. Nobody's afraid to make a comment to upset the apple cart.
There's very low logic when you do low.
Yeah. Who cares anymore?
Not much going on.
All right, we're going to move on to the approval section of our meeting. We're going to start with number 8, governance. We're going to accept our suspension, HIV, vandalism, and violence report, approve fire and safety drill report, and accept for first readings policies. We have 15 policies on that list that we discussed a little bit last week, a lot of mandatories. Can I get a motion? Linda?
Second.
Second, Jamie. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, not hearing any. Mike, can you call the roll?
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
Ms. Crooked,
Yes.
Ms. Kuttner,
Yes.
Ms. Hoag,
Yes.
Ms. Paoli,
Yes.
Ms. Hoger.
Yes.
Mr. Benford,
Yes.
President Sangillo.
Yes. Okay, section 9, curriculum and special education. We're resolving to have Walsh Legacy provide 3 hours of pre-algebra instruction per week. We are resolving to approve 10 teachers to work on the math committee for the 2021-22 school year. We're approving the settlement for a student. We're approving a community service project at Elizabeth Haddon associated with the International Lego Contest. And we're approving field trips, conferences, travel, and night field trips. The only field trip on the list was the senior trip to Bear Creek on the 10th of March. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Heather,
Second.
David, discussion?
Chuck and Gino, how do you really feel about the ski trip?
I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm not scared. But I understand why they want to do it. And I think, as I've said before, anytime you can give these kids anything, I'm all for it. So I'm good with it.
And Dave, if you're curious, I had a conversation with Tammy with the PTA rep, and they're going to look at other things for the kids to do. They can't promise it, but they're going to look into tubing for the kids that don't ski. They may or may not be able to do it. They're doing a lot of precautions with the transportation. It seems like, I don't know, I couldn't see why we wouldn't support it, because the kids are just eager to do something together.
Yeah, I was just thinking more of a review of the COVID plan for the trip. That's all.
Yeah, they're taking 3
It's so
buses.
close, it's the 10th of March, when we want to open the.
They're taking 3 buses. There's only be, they're guessing maybe 40 or 50 kids. We're gonna have very few kids in us. We'll have the windows open the whole time. We'll be outside, so I think they'll be safe.
So with the ski equipment, it's only going to be 1 student per seat, so they're not even sitting together. All the windows will be down, and they'll be
Assuming
wearing
there will be
masks.
lunch though.
I'm sorry,
Assuming there will be lunch, right?
but they'll be outside.
I don't know, will it?
Yeah, because where they're looking at going, all the restaurants are
Yeah,
closed
they don't,
inside.
yep, they're closed, there's no ski lodges.
Gotcha.
Yep.
It's cold.
Yeah, the weather sounds cold with the wind,
And
right?
I think kids sit in classrooms with the windows open, so.
Yeah.
They're young, they can handle it.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, if they're estimating 50, that's only a quarter of the senior class. Hopefully they can find other activities for those that.
They're hoping to.
They're looking at like 3 or 4 other ones, like closer to the warmer weather months.
I think the more we can do for the kids.
Yeah.
And it might not find one thing that everybody wants to, but I don't think that anyone is gonna begrudge the kids that want to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else? Michael, can you call it?
Ms. Crooked,
Yes.
Ms. Kuttner,
Yes.
Ms. Hoag,
Yes.
Ms. Paoli,
Yes,
Ms. Hoagirl,
Yes.
Mr. Bedford,
Yes.
Vice President Seidel.
Yes.
President Sangelo.
Yes. Okay, we're approving new personnel transfers, salary upgrades, mentoring, extracurricular, coaching appointments, and leaves of absences and resignations. We're approving a sub per diem rate from March 10th and 9th and 10th to complete 5th grade report cards. We're having Rowan University complete 30 hours over 15 weeks for her practicum in teaching English as a second language. Resolving to approve the 3 teachers, the instructional support program winter session at the curriculum rate. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
second.
Justin and Heather, thank you. Discussion.
We have a retirement there too. Did you
Yes.
say retirement?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. For those, I'm sure you're all aware, Valerie Klein is going to be retiring from Principal at Tatum. Val's really had lots of good things to say about Val. I really like Val. I wish I had to know her a little better, because she just kind of, our paths were crossing. I didn't get to know her. But our conversation, I've always enjoyed them. In that we'd start off talking about school, and then we'd fall into our worlds and come back to school again. And Val's very thoughtful and reflective, and she's a very detail-oriented planning person. That's one thing I learned a lot, because I was talking about her goals, and her goals were so specific and so driven. It was great. But as I said, then the nice part was we were just naturally going to a conversation about what she's doing in her home and where she's going to do the rest of her life, or her future, not the rest of her life. Maybe it sounds, but I'm always jealous, and I told her that she did. As soon as she saw that we started her time, she just got a smile. She's got some good plans ahead. I know she's going to enjoy it. And I'm happy for Val, and I know we're going to miss her.
And she just unmuted.
Yeah, Val, that's why you raised your hand.
Yeah, I just thank you so much, everyone, for the last few years. It's been wonderful, and I will definitely miss Tatum and Haddonfield. I feel like we packed a lot in these last few years that I've been there. So very jam-packed, very fulfilling, and yeah, it's time.
All right, Val. Thank you.
Val. Thanks very much. And good luck. Enjoy retirement. Okay, any other discussion for personnel? Mike can call.
Ms. Crooked,
Yes.
Ms. Kuttner,
Yes.
Ms. Hoag,
Yes.
Ms. Paoli,
Yes.
Ms. Hoagerdel,
Yes.
Mr. Bedford,
Yes.
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
President Sangelo.
Yes. Okay, approval of business and finance recommendations, section 11. We're accepting the audit as was presented to us in writing and in person last week. We're adopting the 2021-22 tentative budget, as Mike presented to us earlier this evening. We're resolving not to participate in the special education Medicaid initiative. We are authorizing the construction of the HMS A-wing roof replacement and cupola restoration. We're approving the service agreement between the Borough of Haddonfield for the Municipal Alliance Coordinator, their stipend positions. We're approving the payment of bills, the budget transfers, the Board Secretary's report, and our cash summary report. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Linda? Lynn, thank you. Any discussion?
Other than congratulations for an audit that had no comments or corrections.
Maybe, Mike.
Right.
Thank you. All that and the baby too. Any other discussion? Okay, call it, Mike.
Ms. Kuttner,
I have to abstain from 11D and yes to the rest.
Ms. Hoag,
Yes.
Ms. Paoli,
Yes.
Ms. Hoagerdel,
Yes.
Mr. Bedford,
Yes.
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
Ms. Crooked,
Yes.
President Sangelo.
Yes. Section 12, approval of the following minutes, which are the meeting in January, regular meeting on January 21st, regular meeting on January 28th, and the executive session on January 28th. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Linda?
Second.
Jamie? Any discussion? Mike, call it?
Ms. Hoag,
Yes.
Ms. Paoli,
Yes.
Ms. Hoagerdel,
Yes.
Mr. Bedford,
Yes.
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
Ms. Crooked,
Yes.
Ms. Kuttner,
Yes.
President Sangelo.
Yes. All right, before we go to the items for future consideration, just want to be considerate. So I think someone called in for a comment. Can't tell if it's that or someone in the admin had to call in. So I just don't want to leave anything out there. There was a phone call from 856 ending in 51. If you are tuned in, could you star 6 to make your comment?
Oh, hello.
Hi. What's your
Hi,
name?
I'm just calling about, my name is Mike from Lansdowne Avenue. I'm just calling about Wednesdays and afternoons. I've yet to really understand why there is no school on Wednesdays and why there's no school in the afternoons. Chuck alluded to the fact that he's working with the HEA to figure out a way to get the kids into school on Wednesdays. So I'm curious, is it a teacher's situation where they don't want to come into school on Wednesdays and teach, or if it's something else? It seems like the numbers are so low for virtual kids at this point. I think Lizzie Haddon might have 6 or 7 kids that are going to be virtual out of the whole student body. So are we taking a full day off from teaching in school for 6 or 7 kids?
Thanks for the question, comment, Mike. I know Chuck has addressed this in other slides.
The one part of that is, this
Hold
is
on, let me
not,
just make sure there's no other calls. Okay, we're good.
this is, Wednesdays are being used, the 6 or 7 is not an accurate number for Lizzie Haddon, that's only K-2, it's more than that. This is not an instance where the teachers are not coming into work. That is frustrating to me to hear. I know that that's a popular thing to say, but that is not the case. We are using Wednesdays when the virtual population was much larger to help service those students, to help plan for those students, to create secondary lessons for those students. It's also a day when the majority of our special ed students meet their mandates. We cannot go full day. We cannot have children here for 8 hours without lunch. Lunch is not possible right now. So a lot of the afternoon mandates when we met with special ed are met on Wednesday as well. That requires teachers to be with those students who do not be able to be with their classes at that time. Now, as you said, now that the numbers are low, because they were not, they have these numbers are lower now for virtual than they have been. We are going to adjust and revisit our Wednesdays. But I want to reiterate, the belief that this is teachers not going to work is not accurate.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this just in general when we're having this conversation about how we re-enter school. The idea of a free and appropriate education in a public school system is that, you know, I know it was an old term of no student left behind, but we have to serve every student. Every student has a right to be met where they are and brought along. So and that counts for students who we create classes at the high school to make sure that our students can be challenged in deep calculus, college level courses. And we also help students that need trouble to catch up and who may be falling behind. That's not, so when you have any student or any group of people that you hang with, you see a relatively small spectrum of what the district is working on. And when you have specific hours that you're allowed to, you know, there are only so many hours in the day to do this work. And I know it's been frustrating for parents because, you know, sometimes they feel like their kids have not been as engaged on Wednesdays as other kids, but it's a full spectrum offering that we make proudly. It's what our society is based on. We're assisting all students. So it's not as simple as just looking at your children or maybe necessarily the children that you're hanging with. So for the most part, we ask for your understanding and we appreciate the many who have understood that it is not a simple task. It's a difficult task that the administration and the teachers have been working very hard on. So thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity for Mr. Klaus to talk about that.
And also to add to what Mr. Klaus said too, I believe Wednesdays, especially when you're getting into the younger grades, are really important for leveled groups, which you cannot do in a socially distant environment. And so that gives an opportunity for leveled reading groups, leveled math groups to meet at a time where you can all be on at the same time. So the teachers are teaching those days, even if it's socially distant. But in the traditional classroom, you can't even seat them together in, like, let's say reading group A would all be in the same area because reading group A isn't the same group as math A. And so if you know, much of that learning, we do differentiated learning, and that just has to be small group instruction, and it's a challenge to do in a socially distanced environment. Or yeah, we say socially distanced.
And that also describes when a parent has the feeling of a Wednesday, well, my child was only online for that lesson for 45 minutes. The teacher did 45 minutes with your child in their group, 45 minutes with another child and or other children in their group and their level. So,
right.
You know, they go around, they're doing it all day. Your child just got their piece of that day.
Right.
You know, and just, we had a write-in from one of the teachers last week, and it's a teacher that I know. And it broke my heart to listen to, you know, her response on hearing what parents are saying, because these teachers are working hard. And I know that it's frustrating for parents. I know that it's just been a frustrating situation. And I think that just a little bit more perseverance, everybody's working hard. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So if we all just kind of hold together and support each other as a community, this is not the time to, go after each other. Everybody's really doing their best for our students.
Agreed.
Okay, any items for future consideration?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, I know last week I gave an update on the high school PTA, but I just wanted to mention it's something that throughout the years has been on and then fallen off the agenda multiple times. I'm hoping that we can get all of the PTAs kind of back on the agenda, and that whoever is representing them, I think it brings a tremendous amount of value when we as board members go to the PTA meetings. It shows the PTAs that we support them. I go there, I always think about what can I tell them that they might want to know if they didn't get a chance to attend the board meetings or listen to them. And then when I'm sitting there, I think what would be valuable for the board to hear. And I think it opens up a good dialogue. Even if it's only, the 5 people on the executive board, I think they are, in that smaller case situation, and sometimes they're bigger, but I think they're really the influential volunteer parents. So it's still, I think, very impactful. And so I just wanted to say, I'd love to get it back on the agenda, and I hope other people feel comfortable bringing updates. And I guess the final caveat, you may only have one more PTA meeting before the end of the year, but I say it now because certainly in the fall, that's always like the biggest and most crucial one, but I'd love to hear updates from other PTAs.
It's funny because on my items for future consideration, number 1, I have recognized PTA. It's interesting because I attended a central PTA meeting yesterday. I know I joined the negotiation, was right after that. And it's amazing the amount of work that the PTAs do. Back when I was a Tatum rep and then it was the Haddon rep, and they mentioned various things, like lunch for custodians. I thought that was incredibly nice. They mentioned, holiday shop, where I think there were over 130 orders. They mentioned teacher appreciation week. Mentioned doing a coffee bar for teachers and wanting to do another one. So there are so many, and the person, I don't know, I don't want to call people by their names, although I don't think it's appropriate here, but they start off by saying, like, look, because of COVID, we've had to cancel so many things. And the next thing you know, she rattled off 20 things that they had done. And I was like, oh my God, that's in a COVID environment. So I agree. I think PTAs do an awful lot. And I kind of look at them in a similar way that I look at a lot of these teachers with COVID, like unsung heroes who are stepping in every day and adding a lot of value. So it'd be great if we could recognize PTAs. But yeah, in terms of putting them, I don't know if they just, when we do our reports, because I hesitated. I almost did this report on the central PTA when I did my finance facilities update, but I figured I knew we had a couple things like Chuck's presentation. I wanted to go to that, so I figured I did it again, but I agree with it.
That's where it used to be, and it doesn't have to be there. But the other thing is I also just think when we regularly show up and report on them, it builds a bond where when things get, I was going to say dicey, but there's always something like a fire going off in the district at some point in time. And when they know that we've been supporting them and listening to them and just showing up and being a part of their team, it makes them more likely to listen to us and support us. So I know people show up and do it, but it's the relaying of the information shows support too.
So yeah, do you want to, we'll put a time in just to hear what's going on at the schools. I've been, I think it's a good idea. I think to talk about what the PTAs are up to and what they're doing. It's a great.
It doesn't have to be lengthy. I just want to get it back in there.
Yeah.
So on that note, I went to the Lizzie Haddon
PTA.
And they're doing great things too. It was mostly I think there were 14 or 15 people. Part of the voluntary visitor was there and gave a big update on district. But they have been doing amazing stuff, raising money through Spirit Aware and book sales at Inkwood and Square One art project. So they're doing some excellent work.
And some of it is good for, I'm sure Chuck and Gino hear from the building administrators and principals, but sometimes there's some things that's good for them to be informed, to know that it's going on, that might be just helpful to be aware.
Yep. I had a couple other things. One is obvious, and Chuck, you're saying this. since you're in the middle of phase 2, but I'm sure the obvious question from people, somebody made a comment earlier about seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I think people being able to see that light at the end of the tunnel, what does that look like? So phase 3 or 2B or
I'm
whatever.
gonna go with 2A and a 3, I think. How we're doing this.
2A and 3, like I know you're working on it, I know it's already in the works, but just to state the obvious for anybody who's still hanging on, I know you're continuing to look at that and to get us there. So people should have hope, and frankly, I hope we get there. That's one. Another thing is, we mentioned earlier, I just want to make sure it makes its way into the minutes, is doing that capital projects and maintenance projects presentations at some point, so getting that into a future agenda. Another one is just a quick reminder about mask wearing and hand sanitizer, all those good safety protocols. I'm sure that's being discussed. I just want to make sure. And finally, just thinking about the portrait of a graduate, in connection with that, just thinking about the support that we give our students, from when they're in high school. I don't have high school age children right now, but just around the relationships we build with other universities and just the overall support. Like I know we have relationships with Rowan, Temple, and I'm sure I just don't have a full understanding of the full extent of it. And I don't know who's doing what, from principals, assistant principals, to guidance counselors, but just the overall support that students get when you're in high school to build those relationships with other institutions, help them get into college. I don't have a great understanding of it.
We can certainly put together, have some of our counselors come in and put together the college application process. I mean, you don't have to have a kid in high school though, because you start learning Naviance in 8th grade, I think, which is your resume building high school qualification piece. And we can certainly put together a presentation that takes you through, that shows all those things that go in. So that would be a really useful presentation.
It actually would be great,
Yeah.
because I'm learning all of that in this past year. But oh my gosh, the stuff that you don't know when you've got kids in elementary school, and maybe just being aware of that in advance. So you have some.
It'll be a good way to show off the great work of our
Yes,
counseling department,
yes.
who are really unsung heroes in a lot of ways too, right? They're up in their offices. When we when you talk to other school districts, you say in our high school, each high school student meets with their guidance counselor for a full hour every year to talk about schedules for next year. People cannot believe that. Like, that's unheard of. And while they're doing that, they're also spending hours and hours and hours and hours with helping with the college, how to look for colleges, working in Naviance. So that I would really like to have that out. It's a good idea, Justin, because it would be great. Once again, it would enable some of our council department to show off some of the work they do too.
And they sell our students to those colleges.
Yeah. These colleges know Haddonfield High School. I mean, it really, I think it is a great idea that parents know how much goes on. It's amazing.
You're right, 'cause I think by the time you're done,
Yes.
going into it, you don't
You
realize
don't,
it's going to
you
happen.
don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and to piggyback on that, it's good for us to know as board members, it's good for the public to kind of get it out there, but some of the stuff is a lot to digest as a parent in 10th and 11th grade. And some people, may say, let me find out about it on my own in 9th or 8th grade, but a lot of people think the school's going to lead them through it. So it's interesting if there is a way, or the guidance department can think about it, but maybe certain things would be good for parents to consider even earlier on an optional basis, like financial aid planning. I recently spoken with another parent that 2 years ago, we did have somebody come in and address all the parents, and I think that might have gotten canceled with COVID, or I missed it, one or the other, I don't know. But
We usually have someone come in every year to do it. So
Every
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it happened this year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty that's a well-attended program.
Yes. And
We do it
very
virtually though, we
informative,
have
yeah.
it. But the thing is I don't know if that's only for 11th graders, but I gotta be honest, it'd be great to learn about it when you got a 7th grader, so you can start planning and, I'm saying planning, start, moving things where they need to be.
Well, when we have college fairs, they're not just restricted to the Haddonfield students. You see people from all over, coming because we're drawing desirable colleges to our college fairs. I can just remember last year when it was still alive, or the last time it was still alive, running into some folks I knew from Medford and from Cherry Hill and from Marlton, there too, just because, hey, they were close and they're fair and they got a chance to talk to. So we do a nice service for the community at large.
Yeah, and we have, and actually some of our schools, we have the best relationships. They get their own classrooms. Like, so in the gym, you've got 60 colleges, but up the hallway, there's like 8 or 10 colleges that we have really strong relationships. They'll get their own classroom. They have their own space and we'll do more individual presentations.
I have 2 items. One EDKT update on what that looks like for next year. Alpha Best has gotten.
Good suggestion.
And 2, I was just totally spitballing here, but if we reach out to Alpha Best, or if Alpha Best is any interested, because we've been talking about summer programs, and I know people are interested in, some people are, and interested in having programs for their children over the summer. And because Alpha Best has that academic and play component, and I don't know about our situation with teachers and who's burnt out and who maybe just wants the summer off, and they might not be as interested in working. Is Alpha Best offering any kind of service like summer camp?
We can ask them. I know they do
program
that.
we could offer the facility, something like that, so that we can offer the families some kind of something over the summer.
We can reach out to them. They are investigating EDK possibilities for next year. But we can certainly ask them about summer, because I know they do summer camps.
Yeah, I remember from talking with them that they did that. So, and
I heard the state was working on establishing sort of more, and tell me if I'm wrong, but they're establishing more formal plans for summer?
They are, and that brings up my third question. Are we looking into grant or funding from the state? Because I know that they're offering things right now, so I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's perfect. You made me think of that.
But yes, they did say that.
Yeah.
The I can't remember the right letters for the CARES 2 package, is just released, and the application is March 15th.
It opens up March 15th.
Open March 15th. So that's broken up. That's got different. They've got a pool of money that you can use for what you need to do, but they've also got a learning advancement piece and a social emotional piece. They actually have money earmarked for those things, and you can take money out of your general pool and also shift it over to those things as well.
Okay.
So we don't have the specifics on what that requirement looks like yet, because the application opens on the 15th, but that's certainly on the table. And I know that Dr. Mary Colleen started talking with the principals about putting plans together for summer programs already. So those conversations already started too.
Great. My hope is that this summer things will relax a little bit and the kids can have.
And we could maybe have outside
outside.
classrooms in the summer, right? I mean,
Right.
we have maybe school gets called because of rain today, but rain's,
Right.
baseball games, but you can maybe do some stuff outside as well.
Is there anything you can share with us about your conversations with Alpha Best and
Mike, have you covered it?
Everything that board members are stating about has been talked about.
Yeah, so where are we?
Good. We're Alpha Best. They have been exploring EDKP. They call wraparound synonymous, right, Chuck? So they've been exploring that. Our biggest issue with that space. Haddonfield childcare used to do it.
Outside, wait, did they do it in our buildings? or
No, they did not. They did it at yes.
Lutheran
That's
Church, I
correct.
believe,
So, they've explored that. They're also exploring other places in Haddonfield where they could possibly do this. Kingsway has a new owner. They're talking to their owner, the current owner, to see if maybe that's what.
So let me see if I want you to tell me if I'm describing it correctly. When we chose Alpha Best and Alpha Best began their implementation, they had said, if there is a desire for EDKP, we will fill it, but it's currently being filled by Haddonfield Child Care.
Correct.
I'm going to tell a story. Okay, correct. Then, so Haddonfield Child Care had like the right of first refusal for EDKP. It said another way. COVID came and EDKP became impossible because of cohorts. You didn't want to put kids in cohorts in school and then combine them in EDKP, so that it wasn't available. Now, at my understanding at this point, and I may not be 100% accurate, but I'm pretty sure that Haddonfield Child Care is no longer going to be in the position to offer that service. which is a refusal, so they're no longer, so now Alpha Best is back to where they want to provide. And they have intentions of providing because we have demand. Is that correct?
Correct.
So in all likelihood, we're gonna have a solution for EDKP provided by Alpha Best at some location in the Haddonfield, the borough.
100%.
Okay.
And someone had mentioned that they don't do it locally, but, which they might not, but they do it in their other national, schools that they run. So this isn't something unfamiliar to them.
Absolutely not.
They're very comfortable with this.
And I just want to add one little piece. Right before awarding the childcare provider we're contracting with, we also wrote in our request for proposal that if we ever find the space in our buildings to run this program, that this childcare program, who we would choose, we would work with them to administer that program here in our buildings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being sort of veiled, I don't want to be unveiled. When we made this decision to go with Alpha Best, we were very comfortable with the fact that EDKP would continue. With COVID, the communications and the plans got screwed up, but there was no reason to believe that by making the switch from Haddonfield Childcare to Alpha Best, we were going to lose our EDKP, that service to our parents. So I just want to, and we're very comfortable with the fact that it's going to be picked up. So
And we did specifically ask that in the interview. That was something where we if this goes away from here, can you pick that up? And they did say yes. So I think it's probably a matter of the logistics.
I say that because we want our parents of kindergartners to be comfortable that there's going to be a solution. Because I think they got word before last meeting that there was somehow that we weren't considerate of that population.
And there's so much uncertainty now in the world.
Yeah,
I think the more things you can plan, the better.
100%.
So I think it's tough.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood it correctly. Okay, any other items? Okay.
Holding our breath for the borough.
Yeah, let's swap around. Comfortable that's going to move forward too. That's what we're budgeting for. Okay. Motion to close? Linda and David. Thanks. Thank you all.